I've lived my whole life in a valley the wind doesn't forget. Our town sits between cottonwoods and a red bluff that looks purple before a storm. Folks here know who borrowed your post hole digger in 2009 and who still has it. We brand calves in May, bring casseroles in November, and measure a man by how he shows up when a gate's blown open at 2 a.m. My name's Luke Mercer. I married Rachel the summer after high school, when we still thought the mountains were ours if we drove far enough with a tank of gas and a cooler of Dr. Peppers. 20 years later, we had a son, Eli, who could throw a loop slick as his granddad, and a daughter, June, who read books while riding her bay mare and somehow never fell. We weren't fancy, but we were us, until we weren't. The first small lie the wind brought me was laughter in the barn that wasn't meant for me. It was a Saturday in August, the kind of dry heat where fresh-cut hay smells like bread. I'd come back early from fixing a neighbor's stretch of fence. Rachel was in the tack room with my best friend, Wade Lawson, the guy who coached Eli's Little Britches team and knew the combination to my tool shed because he'd helped pour the concrete. I saw their shadows before I saw them. Two shapes too close, her hand on his forearm longer than any joke could explain. When I stepped in, she startled like a colt. Wade grinned too quickly. "Luke, we were just—" "Fixing the bridle," Rachel said, holding up leather like a prop. Her laugh had a new edge to it, like a bottle cap flicked wrong. I didn't say anything then. Folks in movies blow up. Folks here give the wind a chance to carry the truth on its own. It carried more than I asked for. I started noticing the little things. The perfume she never wore to the co-op, the extra pass she made by the school after dropping June, the way Wade started using Buddy for me again like we were 15 and not 40. One night, after the kids were asleep, I said, "Rach, you happy?" "Of course," she said too fast. "Why?" I shrugged. "Just asking." She crossed the kitchen and kissed my cheek. The kiss landed polite and light. "You think too much," she said, smiling. The next week, my phone buzzed at 11:46 p.m. Wade. "Fence down on your north pasture? Want me to check?" I was already in bed. "I'll go," I texted back, then went anyway, down the gravel in socks and boots, headlights off the last 100 yards. The fence was fine. Wade's truck wasn't at his place. Rachel was sleeping when I came home. The deep, too still kind you can tell is acted if you've split enough night shifts bottle-feeding calves. I didn't rage. I did what people here do when they don't understand a thing. I talked to someone who'd seen more wind than me. In my case, that was Sheriff Nora Pike, a friend since grade school, the kind who had once broken her wrist falling off my dad's haystack. I didn't want her badge. I wanted her sense. "You want me to tell you you're imagining it," Nora said, sipping coffee at the station as dawn turned the lot the color of pennies. "But you're not. Get your head straight and your ducks in a row before you confront them. Protect the kids first." "What does that even look like?" "Quiet," she said. "Document, lawyer, plan." She held my gaze. "And don't do anything that gives you a mugshot. You hear me?" I heard her. I put up a couple of game cameras, the same kind I use for elk, pointed not into anyone's private space but across my yard and the lane by the barn. I checked our phone plan. Turns out if you pay the bill, you can see call logs and location pings. I didn't snoop on messages. I didn't need to. Patterns tell their own stories. Then I drove to Sheridan and sat with a lawyer who'd branded calves next to my dad 30 years ago. We talked about Wyoming being an equitable distribution state, about custody and temporary orders, about protecting college money for the kids in a trust with a neutral third party. We talked about moving my paycheck to a separate account so the lights stayed on even if a joint account got swept bare. Boring, unglamorous, grown-up steps revenge by way of responsibility. A week later, the wind brought me the kind of proof you never want. The trail cam caught Wade's truck easing down our lane at 10:57 p.m. and leaving at 1:12 a.m. The same night, my phone's Find My log showed Rachel's phone walking out past the barn and back. I printed the timestamps and sat at the kitchen table until the sun pushed its hand up over the bluff. After breakfast, I told Rachel I needed help setting panels at the county roping arena. She said she'd meet me there after picking up June from 4-H and grabbing dinner from the diner. I beat her there by an hour, long enough to talk to Pastor Jim about borrowing the meeting room for a family talk, and long enough to ask Nora to be nearby, for calm, not cuffs. She understood. At 6, the people I'd invited filed into that cheap carpeted room, the kind with folding chairs and a whiteboard that still smelled like last Sunday's parable. My dad and mom, Wade's ex, Tara, who still bore him a kind of complicated loyalty, and Wade himself, surprised but game, because Wade never passed up a room where he might charm his way out. Rachel stepped in last, styrofoam bag in one hand, eyes flicking across faces like a spooked mare reading fences. "What is this?" "It's a talk," I said, "and it's going to be quiet." "Luke?" I held up a folder. Not like a weapon, like a ledger. "I want to say one thing straight so there's no theater." I laid 3 printed pages and a still from the trail cam on the table. "I know." Color rose into her cheeks, then drained. Wade's mouth made a small, involuntary, "Oh." "Rachel," I went on, "I love you. I will be fair to you because you're the mother of my kids. But I will not be lied to anymore. I've already talked to a lawyer. I've set up trusts for Eli and June, so college money's locked tight. I've filed for a separation with temporary custody shared for now. We'll swap at the sheriff's office for the kids so there's no drama. And I've changed the locks on the shop because tools keep walking away at night." "You're humiliating me," she whispered. "No," I said. "I'm refusing to be humiliated. Difference." Wade leaned forward, palms up. "Buddy, don't buddy me," I said softly. "You come into my home past midnight while my kids sleep 30 feet away? You make jokes in my barn while a halter hangs like an alibi? You don't get that word." Tara spoke then, clear as a bell. "Wade, you looked me in the eye last month and said you were done lying." He couldn't meet her gaze. Rachel and I, it just happened." "Affairs don't just happen," Nora said from the doorway, voice even. "They get scheduled." Rachel swiped at her cheek. "It wasn't supposed to be anything," she said. And the truest thing about that sentence is that it felt true to her even as it shattered me. I breathed. Here's what happens next. We tell the kids the truth they can handle. Mom and Dad are separating because grown-ups made mistakes. No details, no sides. We keep their world as steady as we can. We don't weaponize them. We go to co-parenting counseling because they deserve 2 healthy houses, not 1 angry one. And Wade? He looked up. You step back. You stay away from my property, from my kids' events for a season, from my home. If you push it, I'll file a trespass order, and you'll explain that to the whole town when you miss the roping finals. He flinched, pride pierced. You don't own the arena. No, I said. But I do own my boundaries. Rachel stared at the papers. You did all this without telling me, she said. I gave you 6 months of questions, I said. You gave me silence and perfume. She started to cry then, the quiet kind that folds in on itself. It hurt to watch. Loving someone doesn't stop just because trust does. But love without truth is just nostalgia. We told the kids that Sunday. Eli went stone still, then asked, Do I still get to rope next spring? June crawled into my lap and said, I want Grandma. We promised them the things we could promise. The same school, the same dog, 2 Christmas trees, a calendar they could read themselves. The town did what small towns do. It took sides nobody meant to pick and then got bored of picking. The story settled into the silt of everyone's real concerns. Blizzards, birthings, the price of diesel. Rachel rented a small house near the school. I kept the place, not because I won anything, but because the bank prefers one signature to two when storms blow shingles off. As for revenge, if by that you mean hurting them, I didn't. The wind tempted me, sure. A public scene, a drunk night, a busted lip. Instead, my genius plan, if you want to call it that, was to turn their betrayal into leverage for good. First, I sold the old flatbed that had my name alone on the title, and I used the money to fully fund those trusts for Eli and June while the court watched. "You can't touch this," I told Rachel gently, and she nodded through tears because she understood we were both protecting the same two people now. Second, I took the Saturday slot Wade had run at the roping arena organizing volunteers, and I filled the list with dads who'd been asking for a chance. "Wade's taking time," I told them, plain. "It took him 3 long months to figure out a town moves on without you if you've taught it how." Third, I hosted the fall branding at my place with every neighbor invited, including Rachel if she wanted. I kept it sober, fed everyone chili, and asked Pastor Jim to say grace over work and honesty and mending fences you cut yourself. At dusk, Wade showed up, hat in his hands, eyes rimmed red. "Luke," he said, voice frayed, "I'm sorry." "I know," I said. "Now be sorry where it matters. Apologize to Tara. Stay away from my house. Show up for the community without needing a spotlight. That's your path back, if there is one." He nodded, swallowed, and went to find Tara. Rachel and I aren't friends. Not yet. We're functional. We sit together at bleachers when the kids' names are called. We trade weekends with a smile you could skate on. Sometimes she watches the wind run over the hay, and I can see the girl from 2001 staring through her. Sometimes I let myself remember without rewriting. This winter, the valley went white early. One night in December, the power winked out town-wide. The kids were with me. We pulled mattresses to the living room and built a fort over the wood stove, the way my dad did the year the line snapped near Dry Creek. June drew pictures by headlamp. Eli wanted a story. "What kind?" I asked. "True," he said. So I told him how the wind here knows our names and keeps our secrets only as long as it has to. How sometimes people you love make choices that crack you open, and how you can't control the crack, only what you plant in it. I told him, when a fence goes down, you don't get to say whose fault the wind was. You get your gloves and you fix the fence. He nodded like he understood more than I wanted him to. When the lights came back, the house hummed to life, and the kids whooped like we'd won something. Maybe we had. Not marriage, not neatness, not the old map. But something sturdier. The wind pushed against the windows, curious, then moved on to bother someone else's eaves. People ask sometimes if I forgave them. That question feels too tidy for a place like this. Forgiveness isn't a verdict. It's a practice. Every time I show up on my day with the kids and don't badmouth their mom. Every time I pass Wade at the feed store and say evenin' instead of swallowing glass. Every time I choose to fix the fence instead of stand in it and curse. I practice. The wind doesn't forget. But it does move. And so do we.